Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and it is day 14 of Bookmas. We're just gonna jump straight into it. So, my husband and I did read Mystery for Christmas by edited by Cynthia Manson, and this story that we read last night was called Mystery for Christmas by Anthony Boucher. It was written in 1942, takes place in the 20s, and just very confusing. Like, the wordage that was used did not make sense, and my husband's like, I'm pretty familiar with terms and such that are used throughout the ages, and I don't even understand what he's saying. So basically you're plopped into the middle of this big argument, and you have Mr. Quilter, and you don't understand what the heck they're saying. But what I gathered was he's like an agent or something for writers. And this one client doesn't agree that he needs to make changes or whatever. So he's like, I'll prove it to you. Like, you may write the stories, but I'm the one that gets them out there, and yada, yada, yada. So he goes marching out, and he gets hit by this car, which is driven by this cop who's like blaming the fact that he hit him on his bum arm. I'm like, if you have a bum arm, maybe you shouldn't be driving if it's going to cause you to hit somebody. Like, but your eyes still work and you didn't see him. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so that's how it starts, and you're all confused. And the cop is just all like, "You work in there?" Like, all enamored. And he has a story based on what happened to him and why his arm's bum. And so basically, the story is about this Hollywood actress, and she threw a Christmas party and her jewels got taken. And the Christmas party was like a costume party, and they were all dressed as Disney characters. So you have Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, one of the three pigs, and like Snow White. And so the cops are trying to discover what happened to these jewels. And that part was fine, but like it's just like I said, the terms and phrases using were very confusing, and it pops you in the middle of this argument where you have no clue what's going on, you have no clue who these characters are, and it has nothing to the story. So definitely my least favorite so far of this. And my husband and I will get back to this tomorrow because we're of course reading this on odd days. So it's been pretty hit and miss, more misses than hits, but we'll continue on with it. I did finish Spending the Holidays with People I Want to Punch in the Throat by Jen Mann, so that was fantastic. I actually really enjoyed this. Like, not all of them again hit. I ended up giving this 4 stars because, and that's the thing with like short stories and essays, not all of them are going to hit. But last night I had 5 more essays to go, and they were all other holidays. So the first one is why you won't be invited to our Chinese New Year's party this year or ever. And that one, basically, she's a realtor and she goes to this talk, and he's like, a good networking thing is to throw a party, but you don't want to throw it on the normal holidays like Christmas because people are already overextended. So you want a different holiday. And her husband's Chinese, so she's like, "We'll throw a Chinese New Year's party." Well, it ends up getting so big, like their house is getting destroyed, and it's just not fun for them. It's just exhausting. And so they're talking, and they're like, we need to cut down. And so they're coming up with a list of reasons why people wouldn't be invited back to the holiday party. Their kids are destroying stuff. They are just there for the food, and they're never going to buy a house, or they bought their house, they're never going to move again, or their family bought houses and they didn't even contact them, things like that. Like, that's why you're not invited. In the end, they decide we're just not going to do New Year's Eve, Chinese New Year's party ever again. And then you have Nice Halloween Costume was skank sold out. That one again was fine. She's part of this mommy group, and normally the moms get together dependent on the age of their children. And so there's this mom with some older children, preteen, teenage. But the mommy group throws this Halloween party every year in which all the whole family, all the moms are invited. So you have a range of ages and moms and such. Well, there's like, whispering, and so she's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Have you seen this mom's Halloween costume?" And she sees it, and she's like, all like in a big block, and she's like, "I don't get it." It's like, and then she notices, okay, she's a plug, or an outlet, and and they're like, "Yeah," and look at her husband, who's the plug. The plug goes in the outlet, but it's at certain points of the anatomy. Well, she's taught her son the proper terminology for kids, which you should do, and just like the basics. And so her son's like, oh, I get it. You know, she's the outlet and he's the plug, and the plug goes in the outlet. And that's the P and the V basically. And so the other mom, like, who wore the inappropriate outfit, which, like the author says, it would be funny if it was like in an adult party, but at a family party where you have kids of different ages, like, the moms with 12-year-old sons are going to have to talk to them. And, my son knows enough that now, like, he didn't know the actual, like, which we're going to have that conversation now. And so, yeah, and the other mom ends up acting all scandalous because she taught her son the proper terminology, and like, oh, that's so disgusting. And like, you're the one that wore the inappropriate costume. Like, even if my son, like, didn't know that, there's still older children here that are going to get it. So that one was like, yeah, but she's the one that wore the inappropriate costumes, acting like our author's in the wrong for teaching her son proper terminology. Anyway, and then you have Thanksgiving Day parades suck when they're not in HD, which was probably my least favorite. So basically, they have 4 TVs in their house, and on Thanksgiving, there's 4 different things going on. You have the kids watching what they want to watch. I think like the sports people watching their sports or whatever. He likes to watch an R-rated movie while the kids are busy, and then you have like the wives in the kitchen watching Lifetime or something. And 2 of the TVs, like, the kids have ended up taking over the home theater. And so he's like, 2 of the TVs, they not in HD or whatever. And so he's like, well, your uncle really likes to watch his sports and we have to have it. These TVs are just not up to snuff. But it's really, he wants these TVs for himself. So he can watch, better quality since he's gotten kicked out of the home theater by the kids. So the whole thing is about these TVs and how they're going to get rid of them. And the husband's like dead set on not paying for somebody to come in and remove them, not paying to recycle them. And the one TV is small enough that they can donate it, but it's 150 pounds. And so they're like struggling to get it out of the house and such. And so it's basically all about them trying to get rid of these TVs. And I just didn't find it all that funny. Then you have my first and last Mother's Day present. And this one kind of like made me mad at the husband. Like, so she's talking about her first Mother's Day. Her son's like 6 months old, and she's like, you have to give me a Mother's Day present. Her husband's like, why? Like, I was like, from him, it's my first Mother's Day. And so it was a little bit funny, but so her husband's just like, not like no, like, you don't need a present. And like, and she's like, yes, I do. Finally convinces him, and she's like, I want a nice card and I want something. He's like, well, I'll get you a dustbuster because we need a new one anyway. And then she's like, no, that's not appropriate. And like, listening to stuff, she's like, no, I don't want that. I want something like to pamper myself and make me feel good about myself, and like, something that will do me good and motivate me, essentially. And so he gets her this really nice card, and she's like, oh, that's so sweet. And then the present is a digital scale, which not only tracks weight but body fat. And so she's all pissed off and upset about that. So ever since then, she's bought her own Mother's Day presents. And then the last one is the Easter I blew Gomer's mind, which is, that's not her son's name, but that's what she calls him. And that one was all about when her son basically learned that the Easter Bunny and Santa aren't real. And they have this thing in their house where if you say, don't lie to me, like, that's very serious and the other person cannot lie. And so he's like, are you the Easter Bunny? Don't lie to me. And so she's like, tells her daughter, you need to go brush your teeth and get ready for bed. And she's like, are you sure? Like you said, don't lie. Are you sure you want to know? And he's like, yes. And she's like, yeah, I'm the Easter Bunny. And then, so is Santa not real either? And then the look in her eyes, he's like, like, he's not real either. But the Tooth Fairy and the other, I don't remember the other holiday entity, but he's like, they're real, right? And because he didn't say, well, don't lie to me, she's like, yeah, they're so real. So anyway, that was a little bit funny because, we all hit that age where like we start to get suspicious and such. So overall, I ended up like giving this a 4 star because overall I really enjoyed the essays and such, I found the humor to be relatable and funny. But there were some misses in there for me. So, but yeah, this was a great one. I really had a good time with it. So I'll put that away. Um, I did not listen to any more of A December to Remember by Ginny Bayliss. I will be listening to this today, though. I'm hoping to finish this today. I have like 7.5-ish hours, a little bit more than that. But I want to just play World of Warcraft with my husband. Well, he has to go um, have like a family meeting type thing. So, um, but I will probably just stay on the computer so I can listen to this all day because I really want to finish this one and get back into it. So that's my plan. I did not read any more of it yesterday because we were gone for most of the day. But I do want to finish this up today by listening to it. So that's the plan for that one. We listened to The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. There's only 100 pages exactly left. We listened to like 7.5 hours yesterday, and we have 2.5 hours left basically. And so we're going to listen to this while we play World of Warcraft and finish this out too. So these are going to be the two main focuses for today, so that way I can get them wrapped up and off the list of reading. Why I enjoy the weekend and play World of Warcraft with my husband. And so we did, like I said, we listened to this 7 hours yesterday while we were driving. And then when we got home, we put it back on while we continued to play why we got on to play World of Warcraft. And this one's fine. Right now it's sitting about a 4 star. I don't see that changing in the last 100 pages. So we have Kat, who the first book in the series, it was about Kat's brother and his love interest, which are in this book, which I really appreciate. And there's references made, so you definitely should read Mr. Fixer Upper before you jump into this one. So I'm glad I did that. But basically, Kat, there was like a hurricane, and this town in Connecticut called Mary got destroyed. And they had been there previously on their reality TV renovation show, fixing a house for this family. And so that house is destroyed, the town is destroyed, and they do this big Christmas festival because they're called Mary, you know. So they do this big Christmas festival, and that's not going to happen. And the city manager is like dead set because last time he never met Kat when they were there last time, but she got into a bar fight and punched this guy in the nose. And so like he was out of town, and he comes back and like that happened, and so he's like all pissed off, and he goes, but she's sleeping off her hangover, and so he never ended up meeting her, but that's his impression of her. And he thinks she's just this, you know, vapid TV star, and like there's no substance to her. And so he has a lot of conceptions about Kat. So it's kind of enemies to lover. He's a single dad of a 12-year-old girl, which I really enjoyed that character, Sarah. And so, yeah, like the first part is them kind of bickering back and forth. And then he, which my husband and I were talking about the scene, he basically gets really, he's just in a bad mood. During the flood, he almost died because he was saving one of his neighbors, and Kat was actually out in the floodwaters and ended up saving him. But he doesn't know that because he didn't get a good look at her. You know, it was like raining and she's all bedraggled, and then he was almost getting swept away by the current, and so it was a whole thing. So he didn't realize that. And he just has this misconception of her. So he sees her, his wife meets Kat, and she's getting remarried, and there's an issue with the venue. So Kat, the daughter, Sarah's like, I don't want to go with you, Mom. This is supposed to be girls' day. And Kat's like, you can come and work with me, you know, if you're interested and it's okay with your mom. And the mom's like, yes, like then she'll be happier, and I'll can just take care of what I need to. Well, he, you know, his ex-wife tells him, and he's upset about that. So he goes stomping, and he sees her, and she's at this house where they renovated before, where it's actually Sarah's best friend April is at as well. I think her name's April. I could be mistaken. But so he sees April on the steps crying, and it's just like, oh, she made her cry for the TV just to get, you know, more views and ratings and such, like how messed up. And so he goes stomping up and he's like, Sarah, go get in the car. And April, I need a moment with Miss King or whatever. And he just lays into her. And she's like, do you even see any cameras out here? No. She wanted to do the house tour and then she got emotional. So when she got emotional, we stopped the cameras and came out here so she could reset. Like, and just goes off on him. And then he gets with her assistant and her co-host and they like kind of set him straight. And that's where the physical relation starts to take off. But that whole scene is like, okay, like he seems like a smart guy and he just like kind of flies off the handle. And my husband's like, he seemed like he'd be really observant and for him not to notice the that there were no cameras, like, and just to kind of fly off the handle like that doesn't seem like it really fit the character. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. My biggest problem with this and why it's sitting at a 4 star, excuse me, I really enjoyed the characters. I like being back with some of the characters from the previous book. And I enjoy like the reality TV, the renovation aspect of it, which isn't as heavy in here as it was the other book. But Kat, again, like she's presented as a strong woman who has a really good head on her shoulders. And yeah, she's pretty, but people, mistake her prettiness for being, shallow and not very smart, and where that's not it at all. And she's also trying to start the school for women to learn a trade and such. And so she has a scene, but when it comes to this relationship, she has it in her mind, she's like, she's a career woman. She doesn't want to settle down. And that would be fine. But when it comes to this relationship, like she's acting very, very immature about it. Like he ends up after realizing like she's the one that saved his life and you know, and realizing he was wrong about her all along, he wants to do something nice. So he asks her assistant and her assistant tells him like she likes acts of service. Like she doesn't want presents and such. She wants acts of service. Like she's impressed by people doing something. And so they broke the dining room table in her trailer or whatnot. And so he ends up fixing that and getting her a tree. But he gets her the decorations, but he doesn't decorate it because he knows she'll want to decorate it. So she's like acting like, how dare he? We rarely just slept together, and now he thinks he has the right, and just acting very immature because she's scared because she doesn't think she wants a relationship, but she really likes him. And it's just, again, it just doesn't fit the character. And there's definitely been moments where it's extremely cheesy. And the word diabolical she uses so many times, which I have an issue with that word because I watched this creator um, that does food, Daisy Sue. I'll link the channel down below. She does food reviews, but there's sometimes where she just gets stuck on using the word diabolical. But technically she's using it in the right way, but really is not using it in the right way, and it drives me insane. So I already have an issue with the word. And then like 4 times, like back to back, it got used in this book. And my husband's like, she couldn't come up with like devious or like any other word to use. I was like, apparently not. So anyway, a little bit cheesy and like they sleep together and then they sleep together again. And like, I swear it grew since last time. And I'm just like, okay, so a bit cheesy and things like immature things that don't really seem to fit the character. So, but other than that, I'm really enjoying this. So we'll finish those 2 today. I did start Midnight at the Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. I only got 22 pages in because my eyes, I didn't even, normally I try to end on chapter breaks, but I was just so tired I didn't even get to the chapter break. And this one, I don't really know what's going on so far. Like the writing itself, like easy to get, read, and like pulling me in, but I don't know what's going on because basically it starts and there's a movie being shot at this bookshop. And it's middle of summer, but they're shooting a Christmas movie, that way he obviously could come out at Christmas. And so they're kind of making fun of like the characters and the stereotypes of Scottish people. And then it flashes back, she had this boyfriend, and I don't really know what happened. We're gonna obviously learn that. But he was Brazilian, I think. And basically, all I know right now is she's just mad and confused because they haven't slept together. And she's like, does he not want me? Does he think I'm fat and ugly? And her friend's like, he stayed. He didn't go back to Brazil because he wanted to stay and be with you. Like, I don't think he doesn't isn't attracted to you, but so that's kind of where we are. I didn't make a lot of progress, but like so far the writing, it was easy to kind of get into, even though I don't know what's going on. So I will definitely try to continue this tonight. But I was super tired after the drive and everything. I did not get to train tracks at all. So that's kind of where we stand. And then, of course, tonight my husband and I will read the next section of Christmas Eve Love Story by Ginny Baird. This next section is really short. It's only 16 pages. It's the shortest section in the book. And so, yeah, we'll kind of see where it goes. I'm hoping we'll get more Braden's point of view. But that will be the plan for tonight because we're reading this, of course, on even days. So now that brings us to day 14. This is another hardback. Again, it's kind of thicker. Like, I don't remember the Mary Higgins Clark and the Paul Richard Evans, or Richard Paul Evans being this size, but this is the only other one I remember that's a hardback. That's not a Mary Higgins Clark or Richard Paul Evans. So I don't know, but we're gonna find out right now. Let's go ahead and see what we got here. All right. I completely forgot I put a Glenn Beck in here. So I've read two stories by Glenn Beck. The Immortal Nicholas, I think is what it's called, is my favorite. I've read it a couple Christmases. And then I read something about a Christmas sweater last year. Um, oh, yeah, the Christmas sweater right there. It's right on the front. I read that last year, and then I came across this at a thrift store, and I was like, again, looking for Bookmas books, and I enjoyed this author's writing in the past. So this is The Snow Angel. Um, and it says, the woman in the picture was so young she looked like a child. Her hair was loose, eyes wide, blue t-shirt stark against the pale lines of arching collarbones. I felt the air leave me in a quiet rush, not because of the way the photo captured her fleeting youth, but because of the way it highlighted the bruise. It was a photo of me. Rachel Price has just one happy memory from her childhood. The moment her father took her hands while playing outside on a cold, snowy day and called her his angel. It was a rare, sacred moment in her young life, one in which she finally felt safe, loved, and protected. But it didn't last long. Years later, Rachel's daughter is the only light in what has become a dark life. Rachel repeats the pattern she learned as a child and exposes her own daughter to those same destructive behaviors. Consumed by an abusive marriage but secure in the safety of the familiar, she's too afraid to escape. Rachel accepts what her life has become, even as she makes excuses for those who keep her in a constant state of despair and regret. But then an unexpected phone call from an old friend changes everything. Her ordered world is turned upside down as she's set on a journey that might be her last chance to salvage the life she'd given up so long ago. While new friendships tentatively blossom, Rachel realizes that everything she once believed may be nothing but lies and misunderstandings. But knowing the truth is not as easy as it seems. Sometimes ignorance truly is bliss. As the snow falls and the promise of Christmas redemption nears, Rachel begins to see her entire childhood in a brand new light and must now decide what her future holds and what her past really means. Will knowing the truth set her free, or will it condemn her to a life full of regret and what ifs? The Snow Angel is a poignant tale about family, forgiveness, and the freedom to live a future free of the past. So, it does sound like it's going to be heavy topics in this one. And it's under 300 pages, so it's 279 pages. So a little bit shorter, and of course, it's smaller in size as well. So yeah, I forgot all about this one. And I'm looking forward. Like I said, I love the Immortal Nicholas. Like that is a great Christmas story. Um, and the Christmas sweater was fine. I did enjoy it. I didn't love it. So I'm looking forward to seeing my thoughts on this. So we have still quite the lineup, but I will for sure be finishing two of these today. So, of course, my husband and I will read the small section of this tonight. And then this is my lineup. We're going to finish uh, the Christmas Fix, and I'm going to focus on a December to Remember, and then hopefully make a little progress in each of these. I would like to read about 50 pages in each of these this evening, but we'll have to see how it goes. We did not end up reading The Butcher's Masquerade last night because we were both exhausted, and so after reading the Advent calendar, he was like, I'm too tired. And I was like, that's fine, I'm tired too. So we didn't read The Butcher's Masquerade, so we'll definitely want to catch up and read a few chapters tonight. And I'm not even going to worry about Wild Women in the Blues. We're just going to focus on our Christmas books and The Butcher's Masquerade. So I will be back tomorrow to let you guys know how it goes.